90 games, 45 days, the game-changing period of FPL. Football is upon return, and so are the addicts. Welcome to the Gameweek 12 edition of the so-called FPL Addicts Podcast. Ladies, gentlemen, good morning. Well, you'll be very brave if you're up very early in the morning watching this if you're from Australia. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be watching around the planet. As always, it's a bumper edition. I mean, no stone is left unturned in these editions. Without further ado, we don't quite have the exuberance of Australian guests because it is quite a ridiculous time slot. But hey, we've got an interesting time slot in this instance. But as always, we're joined by the Reverend, who is the hitman who's my right-hand man in this instance. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Chaza. Thanks, mate. Really looking forward to getting in. As you can see, I've put as my little tag the hitman this week because I've done something drastic. But folks will have to stay tuned to find out whether they think I am the hitman or something that rhymes with the hitman this week. There's a fine line between genius and madness in FPL, and so often I'm on the side of madness, but hopefully I've taken a few hits that might maybe just turn my season around.
Rev, did it snow today where you were?
It snowed a little bit. I mean, this must be very strange for you being from Australia. You know, this is usually like the peak of summertime for you. So yeah, seeing it snow in November in sunny Liverpool, or not so sunny Liverpool. Yeah, a little bit of hail, a little bit of sleet today as well. So yes, winter's truly upon us.
Mm. And for you, Rev, how was the international break? Was it good to have a bit of downtime from FPL before the really busy period kicks in?
Well, the international breaks are usually not great for the FPL overthinkers. You know, FPL overthinkers in the chat, raise your hand. I know that I am an FPL overthinker, so the longer we're left to stew on our decisions, the more the deeper down the rabbit hole we often go, and I've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole this week. So yeah, but I'm obviously glad to have FPL back and to see us kick off again and hopefully start getting some points back on the board, turn our season around.
Well, we'll start with our podcast league because the majority of members somehow still in that got proper points, but for us, we didn't. So this is where we are in terms of the podcast league. Straight to your team, Rev. A underwhelming, no offense, I have to say, a miserable 38 points.
It was bad. It was bad this week. I think obviously the Solanke captain did not go as planned. He was against, was it Ipswich? Spurs were against Ipswich.
Yeah.
So I did expect much more from both Solanke and Maddison. Maddison has suddenly become an issue in my team, despite being great for the first, between game week 5 and game week 8 or something. That there was like a little bit of a golden patch, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll get straight on him. Good differential. Foden yet again didn't deliver. I don't know what has happened to him from last season until obviously this season, where his minutes have been sporadic at best. There's some injury issues there, but he has been playing, but he's been nowhere near as influential. Kuna is the saving grace, doing obviously a really good job out of everyone there. So it was good to bring him in and be on the receiving end of his points. But other than that, he's just a light in a very, very, very dark place for the rest of my team. So a lot of tinkering is required, and I think that team right there, as you can see it there, is a team that requires hits as we move into game week 12.
Interesting approach. I'm very intrigued to see what moves you do. And don't get me wrong, you're not alone here, Rev. 43 points here.
Yeah.
Not amazing. 8 Nori out the back. In Boomo assist. Haaland captain with just a 10. And Mikolenko on the
There's
bench.
like 8 more than I got or something.
Yeah, Mikolenko on the bench. Fabianski with 9 points too. It's gone from Fabianski being there as just a solid secondary keeper you wouldn't expect minutes from. Now he's playing regularly, and now he's outscoring the 4.5 keeper.
It feels rude, doesn't it? It's typical of FPL this season that a player that we got on just to warm our bench is now suddenly trolling us from the sideline. He is someone that I'm looking at. I was one of those people that went for 2 4.5s in Flecken and for Bruggen, and I've been on the wrong side of those decisions quite a few game weeks in a row now.
Just hasn't been good at all. And along with you, Cunha being the light in what is already it's turned into a closed off season pretty quickly. But I mean, there's still loads of game weeks to go. Chris Reed is having the time of his life in paradise. He once did have a honeymoon period last year, but now he's got a proper honeymoon period this season. 28k game week rank. -8 to come with it. Sarr, Robinson, well, and in fairness, Robinson got his clean sheet away at Palace. 8 Nori with a clean sheet too. Salah is 14. Bruno Fernandes, what an exceptional pick. Johan Visser as well. Boomer in the middle, and Mateus Cunha to wrap it all up. Oh, mate, what a team.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as much as I hate to say it from my fellow Scouse panel member, but he's had an absolute masterclass here. He really has. He went different for a little while, going without Salah and without Haaland, and now he's got them both back in, but he's picking the right players in between all of those holes, like Wissa, like Cunha, like Bruno Fernandes, who, Bruno Fernandes looked exceptional. Pardon me, he looked exceptional as well. And with the new manager coming on board and with some good fixtures as well, Bruno looks like a great asset going forward as well. So hats off to you, Reedy. If you're watching this, absolute masterclass from you, and you deserve these points. Also, congratulations to him as well. He's just moved into his new home, as well. So felt fair play to Reedy being a home owner now. Not very often you hear that these days, but we celebrate the successes on the pitch, but also the ones off it. So hats off to him as well. Speaking of off the pitch as well, shall we say hello to a few people in the chat?
Please
as
do.
Well. Miriam, hello. Good to see you in the chat as always. Colin as well. And Jojo, he's in Manchester tuning in. I was in Manchester earlier today for a meeting. That was quite cool. So shout out to Jojo. Gary as well is in the chat as well. He's in work, so have a great time in work, Gary, and hopefully the FPL Addicts podcast can bring a little something to help you pass the time as you go about your work, mate.
Certainly. I'll tell you what, Jojo, I think, is probably a first-time viewer from what I can recall, so thank you very much for tuning in. Immensely appreciated on that front. Jeez, I was nearly going to Vivon League there. While I try and sort the screens out, Rev, for you, because I know it may be a disappointing start to the campaign, what are some important aspects in terms of your management as we head into the festive period?
I think as we head into the festive periods, the things that we've got to really consider is who has midweek games and who doesn't. Whose fixtures are really tightly bunched together and whose aren't. And the team that stands out for me the most as we head into the festive period, that team is Chelsea. Chelsea seem like a team in which you very well might want to even triple up on at some point. You could go Colwill in defence. You could go obviously Palmer. I don't think Palmer is quite the E word. I don't. I don't throw about the word essential too much, or at least not as much as some other people in FPL might. But Palmer could be one who is an excellent pick, an elite tier pick, and also Nicholas Jackson as well, who seems to be that nailed attacker along with Cole Palmer in a side that rotates around them. Jackson has had a really good start to the season, and with some good fixtures coming up and not so congested fixture schedule, maybe he is someone that should be on our radar as well.
I like it. Some very good mentions of the players too. Public League, we've got here Seamus Gray still leading by 17 points, but it is pretty tight between second to sixth spot on that front. We'll get to the Women's League very shortly. Rev, a quick word on Arsenal, and especially their defence these days.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I know that a lot of people are wildcarding this game week. Shall I do it, Chaza? Shall I put my neck on the line? Shall I put my neck on the line for a minute?
Yeah, go on in.
Okay, defenders are bum. Defenders are poo. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I personally don't think spending any more than 5 mil on one defender is worth it. I think clean sheets are a myth. At least they have been recently. And I think investing in your defence when there's some good, cheap attacking options, like Aït-Nouri out there, for example, is just one player who's been getting attacking returns, is cheap as chips. And because the thing is, like, you could spend like 6 mil on, for example, Saliba or Gabriel, right? And most weeks, by the way, I think you would get the same amount of points, or at least a very similar amount of points, for if you picked someone like Mikolenko, for example. And I know that that's putting my neck out there. That's a bit bold to say, maybe, but I think we're at a stage in FPL, and we're at a stage especially in Premier League football, where teams are more attacking. Teams are trying to be a bit more entertaining. Teams are pushing forward more, and that leaves them more vulnerable at the back. It also means they score more goals. So, where we're moving with FPL at the moment, a few seasons ago, we were very much keen on big at the back. I would encourage us to think about moving into a time where we're thinking about as small at the back as possible, in order to justify big spends, like because we can fill our slots, right? We can fill our 7 attacking slots very easily with some really, really big hitters. Isak coming back on our radar at the moment. George.
No, that's all right. Yeah, so Isak back on the radar. Nicholas Jackson as well. I think we've also seen the rise.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Sorry, just George was just asking me a question. Yeah, Isak is very much back on our radar, but also we've got players like Palmer, Saka to bring in. Salah is, if you don't have him, like I don't, is murdering us. Well, he's murdering me anyway. He really is punishing me for that. So, yeah. Sorry, George just absolutely scared the living death out of me. It's because we found a mouse. We've caught the mouse now, and we've let it go. But we found a mouse in our house, and when I heard some rustling behind me, I was like, "No, it's back!" But it was just my son. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry about that.
But that's
yeah,
all right. A mouse.
as small at the back as possible, guys. Like, I think it's worth an experiment at least, especially while clean sheets are so few and far between. And players like Trent as well aren't getting the attack and returns. And also, by the way, Trent might not even be playing. Got a big orange flag next to his name at the moment. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. Yep. Big times indeed. Just very briefly too on the Women's League. Now there is a new leader, and rightly so. Well, in fairness, it's just another week in consolidating her lead. Mira is now up by 23 points, which is astonishing. 2 seasons ago, she had a very dominant season. Was an outlier last campaign, but God, it is turned into a cracking start for her.
You really got to take your hats off to Mira. And also, by the way, you can look her up on YouTube as well. She's well worth a follow. She's got some great insights. And one of the things that I like about her is that she says at the start of her stream, she says something like, "Oh, guys, sorry, the stream isn't as prepared this week," and then she pulls up like a full spreadsheet of a whole thought process and stuff like that. And I'm like, if this is you at your most unprepared, then fair play. So she is very thoughtful, very thorough, and well worth a follow. So go and look her up, guys. FPL Mira. Yeah, she's having a fantastic season, and deservedly so.
She is, yeah, rightly so indeed. And we go and try and do our lovely segue, as we usually do, into the transfer trends. And there's a fair bit to digest out of this. Any surprises?
I don't think there's. I think a surprise for me is Haaland, in a way, being shipped out loads. I think, especially as they're about to play Spurs, we know that Spurs have been very leaky. Very, very leaky, almost too leaky. In fact, I think if they continue to be very leaky, people I think it's going to take maybe between 1 and 3 games for people to start talking about Big Ange, and going, what's going on with his management style at the moment, that they are conceding so many goals. And so I think selling Haaland as they are about to play, a bit of Ange ball, selling Haaland as they're about to play Spurs feels like a mistake. I'm not saying it is a mistake, right? I'm saying it doesn't feel right. And so I'm going to keep Haaland this week. And I know he's not done well recently, but he's still the robot, man. He's still the Nordic meat shield. He's still Man City's star striker, and every striker goes through patches like this. And I think he's definitely got the ability to bring himself out of it.
Yeah. All right. Fair.
But that's a surprise for me. What about you, mate? Any surprises for you there?
Well, in fairness, I haven't really caught up a lot in terms of what's been happening during the international break. On the transfer ins, I'm not surprised. The only reason why I could see West in the top 5 is those who wouldn't have in Burmo, because Brentford's next 2 fixtures are really good. But after that, it gets a bit tricky.
After that, it's poor, isn't it? Yeah.
The Diaz days are well and truly dead. McNeil, I could see, because Everton have got a tough run ahead. A Trent Alexander-Arnold injury. I'm not much of a memo on this. So what happened exactly?
Truth is, I've got no idea. All I can see is that big orange flag.
Price at 7 million, and his last return came in game week 7. Had a good 3 weeks of a campaign, but that's kind of about it. It hasn't been worth the investment ever since.
It's one of them where I think Trent owners can feel quite hard done by, because he has had a fair bit of expected data not go his way. For the FPL data folk like myself, the analytics folk like myself, and to see Virgil van Dijk outscoring him in terms of FPL points has been disappointing. I've got people in my mini league who are above me because they've picked VVD over Trent. And if that feels like a mistake that's being rewarded, But I can't just sit there and lament it. I think, I'm going to really stick by what I said before. Defense isn't worth the investment. I really don't think it's worth the investment. Like, people who have Kanate, for example, are doing a lot better than I am because they've been able to spend that extra 2 million elsewhere, and I'm being punished for it. And so, I can sit here and whine about it, or I can do something about it, and try and go a bit more aggressive with an FPL that is rewarding attacking players more. Speaking of rewarding attacking players more, one of the things that is of massive note at the moment is Mo Salah. His bonus points are up like by half of what they were at this stage last season. His bonus points. So whatever changes have been made to the bonus point system, they really, really, really suit Mo Salah. So the things that he's doing in the game is ticking all the right boxes for the bonus point system as well. So, just another reason to think everyone about bringing him in. I don't think that I can justify bringing him in right now for another hit, especially as Haaland is about to play Spurs. And I think Spurs are quite a leaky defence. But I think in 3 game weeks, is it 3 game weeks time for Mo Salah? Because I know he's got a couple of rough fixtures. I think it's Man City and Newcastle. I think he plays, but then after that,
and then it's Everton, Fulham, Spurs, Leicester.
Yeah, exactly. He plays some of the leakiest defenses in the league, so I'll be looking to get in Salah around then. But he is going to absolutely ruin my day in the meantime.
He's looking irresistible right now. Probably the best he has ever been, and just the way he's gone ever since, I think, that Wolves game too. It's just, he's in a league of his own.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate.
Fixtures wise, now if you had to pick one that you believe has the most FPL relevance at stake, or one that you're most looking forward to, what would it be?
I think in terms of FPL relevance and in terms of proving my point earlier about, and I think so my thesis, right, my proposal that I'm putting forward into the ether is that clean sheets are a myth, and clean sheets are hard to predict. We see Arsenal and Nottingham Forest go against each other. They are two of the best expected, two of the best defenses in terms of expected data that we have in the league, and they are going to play against each other. Now, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, we expect neither to budge. But I still think both teams are going to concede. I look at both of those sides, and if Arsenal and Nottingham Forest both concede in that game, then that for me is all the justification I need to go sack it. I can't predict clean sheets anymore. No one can. So I might as well just pick defenders who I think have got a little bit about them, who are cheap, who might get me the odd attack and return, and just give up all hope of clean sheets. So that's the first fixture that stands out to me in terms of an FPL perspective. Arsenal.
Yeah. No, I think that's
someone put 50p in Chaza.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't too sure.
As Chaza frozen?
Well, you look frozen as well, to be honest. We're turning into frozen stuff at the moment.
All right, there we go. We're back. Sorry.
Good. Well, look, if I cut out, I blame it on my granny.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
So just to catch up then, what I said there was Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, two of the best defences. I still think they'll both concede and prove my point that clean sheets are a myth. What do you think, Chaza? Have I got a point, or am I overreacting?
Great point. No, I think that's a very important game, especially when you talk about how the expected data is a complete contrast to what is being produced at the moment. All right, so for me, look, I'll turn into the jug first. The game I'm most looking forward to is obviously Leicester v Chelsea, because one, I'm going, and number two, I've actually got a row AC at the stadium.
Ooh, lovely.
As exuberant.
Lovely. We'll keep an eye out for when the cameraman obviously gets right up into your marvellous mullet and wants to take a little bit of a snapshot at that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the cameras, they may need attraction somehow. That could be the way. Who knows? But in terms of FPL relevance, I am mostly intrigued by Ipswich Man United just to see how United operate in a complete new system under Ruben Amorim. I think his name is.
Yeah, Amorim. I won't make any more jokes.
Blame Chris, read that.
No, that was me. Leave Rudy out of this. He's innocent. Yeah, I do think that Bruno Fernandes in particular looks really good. It will be interesting to see which other attackers he uses around Bruno Fernandes. So there's obviously Xerxes, there's Haaland from Wish, Hoyland, there's Rashford, there's Garnacho, and there's Ahmad as well. Diallo is another possibility there. So yeah, I think that's it really is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Obviously, the most nailed option is of course Bruno Fernandes, and he's he's nailed, great expected minutes, also on penalties, so he's going to be great. I think there's one more fixture that I would like to mention in terms of FPL relevance, right? And that fixture, and I know I touched on it just before. I think it is Man City and Spurs. Spurs have some good fixtures coming up after Man City, but I think if Man City batter them, two things will happen. I think the first thing that will happen is people will start claiming that Haaland is essential again. Haaland could very easily get a hat-trick in this game, and no one will be surprised, right? No one will be surprised if Haaland gets a hat-trick in this game because Spurs have been so leaky. The second thing that's going to happen is people will wonder whether or not they should sell their Spurs assets if they haven't already. And I know a few people in my mini leagues and a few mates who are holding on to Solanke for that Fulham fixture afterwards. But it's not for me. So that's another game for us to keep our eye on, because the narrative around Haaland is that you can go without him at the moment, and we've seen it in the past. As soon as people say that you can do that, he proves them all wrong. Same with Mo Salah. Mo Salah's proving me wrong at the minute, and I believe Haaland has the capability of doing the exact same.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, it's a big week for both ends of the spectrum, Spurs and Haaland. You're not wrong. In terms of discussion, we talked about United under Amorim because it's a complete new system. Agree. Investment in Chelsea already been touched on. Stickle to Haaland, that's already been discussed a fair bit. Forest players, do we get rid of him now?
It's one of them where the joy of the Nottingham Forest assets is that they're just so cheap, right? If you've got Chris Wood, I'm surprised that people just aren't in love with him at the moment. He's been so kind to his owners in FPL, and so rewarding for those people who've kept faith with him since the start of the season. He's been an absolutely amazing FPL pick. And at the same time, you do look at those fixtures and you think, is this the moment to say, well, thank you very much, see you later? I think in a couple of game weeks' time, we'll be having a similar conversation, I believe, about Mbemo. We're obviously very grateful to Mbemo. He's been treating all of us owners very, very well. And at the same time, I believe in 2 weeks' time, we'll be saying, thanks, mate, but you need to go now because the fixtures are looking very, very unfavourable. So if it was me and I had Chris Wood, I think I'd get the 07s in the chat, a little salute emoji, and I'd say, thank you for your service, but now it's time to move on. The same with what's his name, the defender that everyone has, Aina.
Yeah, Aina,
that's the one. Same with him as well. The fixtures don't look great. And if you've enjoyed those points, try not to be too nostalgic and hold on to them too much. But they are some tough fixtures now coming up, and very, very unfavourable.
Well, yeah, great points. I love it. No, I tend to agree with you. I think it's tough to try and prioritise in terms of where they sit because they're not a must get rid right away. I think because there's been so much monitoring on how Trent's injury is, and so many players with flags right now, I believe that spotlight in which you would anticipate to have on them has kind of been taken away. Like I've got away at Arsenal, which in fairness, I still think that's a good fixture for Chris Wood because Arsenal at home can be vulnerable at times. And Chris Wood is in the form of his life.
Yeah. It's one of them where, like, you know, whilst clean sheets are so hard to predict, I think teams are very good at, or just like at least getting one. And if Nottingham Forest do get one, the chances are it's Chris Wood. So, and at the same time, I think there's some excellent other options that are now available. Kuna from Wolves, great pick going forward. Even Strand Larson, at a very similar price point to Chris Wood, is an excellent pick. Danny Welbeck has a great fixture turn right now, and he's been sensational so far. He really has found his place in this Brighton team, and he looks really dangerous in the box, and has been great. Who else is there? You know, like Raul Jimenez from
Let's
Fulham
talk
as
about
well.
budget forwards. I think it's a great option. It's a great segue. So there's Jimenez. There's I really like Elvin Nielsen. Pedro got a double-digit haul last game week.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and I think that's the point that I'm trying to make about Chris Wood. It's not that Chris Wood's a bad option. It's just that there's so many good options right now around the same price that if you can afford the transfer, then I would say go for it.
Yeah, I think you're correct there. Alain Delap from Ipswich is another intriguing option as well because he did get a goal away at Spurs. Have you got much of a say on him?
Yeah. It's just it feels a little bit underwhelming, I guess. The thing with the lap, and you know, forgive me everyone who's joined in the podcast. I don't have my usual pieces of data right in front of me to help me make data-backed decisions. But one of the things that did strike me about the lap is that his expected data, at least last time I looked at him anyway, and people please do correct me if I'm wrong, but his expected data was suggesting that he was overperforming last time. So, you know, that is something to consider, is that, you know, maybe he is just in great form and, you know, he's being a little bit more clinical, but they aren't producing the amount of chances, at least for me, to justify bringing him in. Because whilst he's performing well in terms of FPL points, we have to question the sustainability of those FPL points by comparing that to the data that he's producing. Is the data that he's producing matching the expected and the actual outcomes of those data? And if not, why not? And I believe that sometimes in FPL we see it all the time. Some people just overperform, and fair play to them. But I don't think that it's that sustainable. Cue a hat trick for him this week. Now that I've put the old Rev curse on him, but yeah, I just think that there are better options. For me, the best options would be Welbeck and Kuna. I think they would be my two top picks for sure.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable too. Raul Jimenez, because you mentioned him just before. I think we got on air, or maybe it was very early on. Fulham's fixtures and how he's performing. I mean, they're not great short term. Let's say that he's probably. Yeah, I don't know. Isaac from Newcastle. He's not quite a budget striker, but he seems to have had his form back.
Yeah, and he's also got a great run of fixtures up until Christmas.
He does
as well. So he's a player in some pretty good form. I think he's got one tricky fixture, which is like Liverpool in a few game weeks. So, but apart from that, he's looking great at the moment, getting a lot of chances and taking some of them as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Tripling up on Liverpool now too. Is that worth the investment, do you believe?
Maybe I wouldn't suggest the triple up. I think, especially with Trent injured, I'm not sure what that is going to do to the defence. If you've got Canate, fair play to you. Well done. You were just like so ahead of the curve. But at the same time, I think Mo Salah, if someone scored in Liverpool, it's either Salah who's got the goal or the assist 9 times out of 10. So he's just the one. You can get most Liverpool points just through him. And if Liverpool happen to keep a clean sheet, which they are quite, in a season of scarce clean sheets, Liverpool have been better than most. Then Canate is probably the way to go, so you can save that extra money.
Yeah,
but maybe not the triple up. I don't think. Well, you know me, Chaza, as well. Darwin is on my never list. I'm never getting him in ever again, no matter what happens. He could win the Ballon d'Or right in 2 seasons' time. I still wouldn't have him in the FPL team. He's completely removed from my ability. The only 2 players on that are him and Reece James. Never again. I'm not willing to be hurt again, like I have been by those 2 players. So I just think. But in terms of the Liverpool triple up, maybe it's a bit excessive.
I like it. Yeah, reasonable takes on that front. I think we're on the verge now to, unless you've got any other discussion points you wanted to mention yourself.
No, mate, I think you've covered it nicely there.
Yeah, I think we've done pretty well in terms of
in the chat. If there's anything there people want to talk about, well, I think people are talking about Pedro. He's obviously back. Colm and Jojo. Yeah, both of them are of the same mind when it comes to cheap forwards. And I know that I've suggested Welbeck, but I think obviously Yao Pedro is a great option as well. For me, the reason why I would still prefer Welbeck is because 1, he's in great form, but 2, I don't quite trust Pedro's injury record so far this season. He's a couple of weeks in, week out, couple of weeks in, week out, and it's been on and off like that. So I think for me personally, I'd rather go for a bit more of a known quantity, in Danny Welbeck than Pedro. But I get it, right? He's cheaper, and he is going to start. By the way, Jojo's fully correct there in the chat. He is going to start, and he is going to do well. He is going to get points. But I think for me, it's Danny Welbeck has proven that he can do it over these first 11 game weeks, and there's no reason why he should not continue to do so. But still, great pick, by the way. If you've got Pedro, fair play. Hats off to you. Well done. Like, I think it's still an excellent pick. I just slightly prefer Welbeck.
I love it. Yeah, you're full on Danny Welbeck this evening. This is what I love.
Well, he's been doing great, mate. He's surprised us all, I think, and he's looked like a proper player.
He has, for sure. Now, I think it might be time to reveal your side. Mikey, are you ready to go? Is the audience ready to go?
Yeah. Trigger warning, by the way, guys. Hits have been taken. So if you are of a sensitive disposition, please look away now.
It's actually quite an interesting team, if anything. I will just But for the audience, so can you still see this, or did you want me to read it out for the audience?
Well, I know who's in my team.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so I'll just take people through the logic first and foremost. I've been sick of getting killed by Palmer and Saka every week. Obviously, last week they both had a difficult fixture against each other, right? Chelsea played Arsenal, yeah. So they had that very difficult fixture. Didn't want to bring them in then, but before then, they've been killing me every week. I've had issues in midfield as well. I had Phil Foden, James Maddison. I had Harry Winks on the bench as well. I was being forced to start Rodgers every week, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think just having the option of starting Rodgers as opposed to Harry Winks, as just a player who's 4.5 that plays. So that was a bit of an issue. I'm really liking the look of Amarim's Manchester United and the potential that they have with the good fixtures that they have coming up. Trent Alexander-Arnold was injured, and they've had an issue with him. So I just think that there's a bunch of fires to put out. Maddison and Solanke both play Man City, and they were also both a little bit poo against Ipswich. So yeah, I think I've done something pretty drastic. I've gone Trent to Lewis Hall. I've gone Maddison to Palmer. I've gone Winks to Fernandez. I've gone what's it called? Who've I brought in for Saka? Oh, Foden to Saka. And I've gone Solanke to Welbeck. So that's a 4, 8, 12, 16. That is a minus 16. But yeah, go on. Comments first, and then I'll explain the logic.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever witnessed a negative 16 hit on this podcast.
Witnessed what?
A negative 16.
Yeah, there you go. That's why I'm the hitman this week, dude. I think so. My logic is that this team right here, as is, I think this team outscores Reverend Reedy. Yeah, fair play, Colin. Fair play. I think this team outscores my previous team this week alone by at least 16 points. That's my logic. I think sometimes it's good to take hits, but I think taking hits in a game week like game week 12, when the fixture swings are so favourable for people like Welbeck, Palmer, Saka, and Bruno, even to an extent Lewis Hall, has got a really good fixture swing as well, and being able to reinvest, especially while Trent is injured. I think you could justify taking a hit, because some people think as well that taking a hit is for just one game week, right? And you suffer during that game week alone. But I think over the course of the next 5 weeks, I think this team is going to certainly pay off the investment of that 16 points, at least in the run up till Christmas. I hope it's obviously much sooner than that. But as you can see, I feel personally, and I don't know what the chat feels, that my team was in need of some major surgery, given a few disappointed game weeks in a row now, and getting back onto those premium midfielders, and then in a couple of weeks' time as well, I might think about selling Haaland to bring in Salah as well. But there you go, there it is. That's the logic. That's the plan.
Wow.
What do we think?
Look, this negative 16 is like myself moving to the other side of the world to try and chase what I want. It's just big moves, mate. That's all it is.
Big moves, man. The alternative was sticking with people like Solanke and Maddison against Man City. It was
not great.
The alternative was having Phil Foden, who's not been great. The alternative was, having the option of just bringing in Lewis Hall and then doing nothing and having a bunch of money just sat in my bank, doing nothing. So there's a few different issues there that I just thought, what, let's sack it, let's just send it, let's go -16 all in the festive period, and yeah, just hopefully play some catch up really.
Yeah. So, question, because I think this is a good thing about rolling up to 5 transfers. We're hitting a period where game weeks will come thick and fast. You kind of don't have to dwell on what's occurred in the past, and you can look forward pretty quickly. That could be an advantage. Like, do you believe this team is capable of potentially rolling all the way up to 5 transfers if you need it?
I mean, in theory, yes. I think in reality, there's still a few more players that I want, but I didn't want to justify like a -24, right? I think that would have been too extreme.
Yeah.
Like I could have brought in Isak for Haaland, and I could have moved, and I could have brought in Salah, right? But I believe that Haaland is going to get something this week, and so that's a move that doesn't pay off. But when it comes to rolling transfers, I think hopefully I get to roll my next 2 at least until Liverpool get that one bad fixture out the way, and then yeah, it's one of them. If Lewis is still continuing to not perform very well, I think I've got Colwill on my radar as well. Another Chelsea player who doesn't have that many midweek games, as I alluded to earlier. He is certainly a player who should be on most of our radars, actually. A cheap player who's going to be nailed. Has just as much of a chance of a clean sheet as everyone else, but we know he's going to play, and he's also going to be part of a side that's going to be more rested than most over the festive period. So, he could be worth a little punt.
Yeah. Wow. Brilliant. Well, superb. I hope it produces a fireworks, especially during this combustible, chaotic period. Now, you may have 5 flags, but unfortunately, I may beat you to it because...
I'm not sure I believe most of these flags. And but also, by the way, shout out Jojo again. Can't believe I didn't have Palmer. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Right. Been punished every week, bro.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see yours, Chaz. What have you got for us?
What have we got? Well, in fairness, we've got a fair few transfers banked up. We've got 4, and we've got 4.7 million in the bank.
Ooh. You can go shopping.
I could go shopping. So here we are, and
are we gonna see some live transfers, Chaza? Are you gonna
start here?
Us on the pod?
Start here.
Oh, let's
incoming.
Oh yeah. Okay, here he is, the man himself, Cole Palmer. Yeah, love it.
Do I go others? Jeez. Do I go others? I don't know. See, Haaland, let me just have another look.
You've got a question. Trent in there. That's a lot of money to be sat on the bench for someone who has been outscored by his centre back defenders, who are 2 million less. Like, what could you do here? The question that I would be asking with 4 free transfers would be how to get in Saka, Palmer, and Salah. That's what I would be asking.
Sure. Where we at? Let's start.
Where's the Egyptian king, mate? Not Virgil, mate. Canate. What? Just costs. Just costs too much. Oh well, I mean, you could go Welbeck, Pedro. You could go Isak or Jackson. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
Woo!
I am for real.
Jeez. It's turning into upside down pretty quickly. Oh, geez. You know, Rev, you're twisting me arm.
I think Isak is possibly a great shout, mate.
Yeah.
He's also
I was
at a
thinking
very flexible price point as well.
Evan Nielsen.
I'm not sure I believe it, mate. I know he's got some good fixtures, though. I'm not sure I believe it, but remember, mate, I think the known quantity is Isak. I think he's the known quantity. And I feel like you could expect more regular returns from him. Whereas I feel like Evan Nielsen is certainly in the punt territory, right? He certainly comes under the category of punt.
How's Nicholas Jackson looking these days? Or what do you reckon of this guy?
Which guy? Sorry,
Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember about him is that I think someone might have mentioned it in the chat. Yeah, it's Colm, the legend of the chat. He said Jackson does have 4 yellow cards, so remember that. One away from a suspension.
How's this guy these days? Yeah.
Just again, I'm not necessarily sure it's something I believe you can expect regular returns from.
So we got Nicholas Jackson on 4 yellow cards. Well, going on 4 yellows with this many flags, I think, can be a risk. Welbeck, I think, is great. What are Brighton's fixtures like? Like, do I really go João Pedro?
You are not ready. Look at these fixtures, mate. As Reedy would say, those are creamy fixtures. I don't think you can ask for much better 7 fixtures from an attacking perspective, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Welbeck, which isn't too bad. But do I want to go to the same as the Rev?
Yeah, I am a fellow Welbeck enjoyer.
Yeah, you are a Welbeck enjoyer. So just to double check. Oh yeah, so he's pulling up okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
look at those minutes as well. By the way, look at those minutes there.
Pretty good, aren't they? Yarrow and Vista, I think only because their fixtures are getting tough. So
I think if you're not on Visa right now, you've missed the boat, unfortunately, because you're only going to be transferring them out in another 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah. Isaac, yeah, could be, yeah. Evan Nielsen, look, I actually quite entertain this idea, you know. Raul Jimenez, I think, is a. All right, so who am I ruling out? Well, I like to be different, so no Welbeck. Jackson on 4 yellow cards, not going in. Don't think Ollie Watkins, don't think Vista, so I'm down to the lap.
Pedro. Pay.
Hang on, are they still saying Pedro? Lots of monies. Indeed, yeah. I've got to figure out a decision because we've got to end this pod somehow. So
Strand Larson is another option.
I'm going back on this guy again.
You keep coming back to him though, man. I think this is part of FPL where if your gut is telling you something, I'll tell you, you can do a lot worse than him right now. You can do a lot worse than Evanilson. And with a name like Francisco Evanilson de Lima Barbosa, you know that those returns are going to come.
And in fairness, that fixture that's right to 4 at home to Spurs, that's actually, I reckon that's a 2 or 3.
It's not a bad fixture from, I know that, it's a 4 on the fixture ticker, but he's an attacker playing against Spurs, and Spurs can't keep a clean sheet to save their life right now.
You know what? I'm going to go there. I've got nothing to lose.
I respect it. I respect it a lot, sir. So, part of FPL, go with your gut.
So, wait, what did we say about the Virgil move?
I would say, personally, Canate. It's just like the same output, really. From an FPL perspective, he's just a bit cheaper. And you can save the other money for a rainy day.
Yeah, so 6-1-1. 6,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. And his minutes,
Mm.
he got off a half-time at home against Brighton. That's probably the only issue he's had.
Yeah.
And then there's Virgil, who's he got an assist and then cheeky goal and then got his clean sheet. Yeah, okay. So he's had a bit more about him.
Yeah, but he's almost 1 million more expensive, and I think, I will bang this drum until the cows come home, is that defenders aren't worth it. I think the less money you can spend, I don't think the output difference between Canate and Virgil, from an FPL perspective, by the way, I'm not comparing the two comparatively as two players. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk is a legend of the sport, and Canate has to earn the right to be in the same conversation in that sense. But this is an FPL podcast, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the points that they're going to be scoring, I think for £1 million, I don't think the difference in the output is going to be that much different.
Okay.
Personally.
Well, we're ready to go, pretty much.
Right. You going to go for Virgil, though? He's going to do it.
Yeah, he's on the pitch.
Fair play. Fair play. He's not on the Rev anti-defender bandwagon.
Wow.
Quite yet, but I don't know.
4
Maybe
transfers.
the point will be proved.
That was big. That was proper big.
You've done it. You've done it. Wow. Guys, 4 free transfers spent live. So talk us through those moves then.
Well, so I look at it at the moment in terms of Haaland. I know he's got a home to Spurs, but then I look at Cole Palmer. He's got more midweeks up his sleeve. Mo Salah's in the form of his life. If I could get 2 premiums instead of 1 for 1 with the money spare, I think I see that as a really good opportunity, along with Bukayo Saka for the meantime. Trent, well, he was orange flags, and I probably just want a proper centre half in which I know who isn't susceptible to injury outside of our outlier campaign, which was 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, fair. No,
So
I respect that.
Some premiums. McNeil kind of had to go eventually. Johnson had to go. I think this is good. And the Elvin Nielsen pick, look, it's just that I've really liked him in the last 6 weeks. And
he does pass the eye test, doesn't he?
And he scored against Man City, returned against Arsenal, scored against Aston Villa.
Yeah, yes. He's doing some bits right now, and you could be on him before anyone else. So, yeah, good luck, dude. Good luck with that.
Thank you. Rodgers or Wood on the field? This is another question. Oh, actually, Chris Wood on the field, surely.
Chris Wood, surely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Mikalenko makes a look on the field?
Who do?
Brentford at home.
It's a toss-up, isn't it? I think the thing with Einer is...
hang on. I'm playing for a 0-0 because I got Flecken in goal anyway. So, oh god, this is bad.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, righto. Okay, we'll leave it as that.
Yeah, I think you're more likely to get an attack and return out of the Forest asset anyway.
Mm.
And clean sheets are a myth, so...
Correct.
They don't exist. They are a unicorn.
So that's first time we've had a negative 16 and 4 live transfers.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading some of the chat. It's, Kyle Julius, he says, I think someone stupid in this game we coming up, so then after you would be a better option.
Kyle.
Whatever you say, mate, I don't know what that means. Sorry. So,
that's all right.
Dallypool as well in the chat. Welcome, Dallypool. I think is Dallypool at the top of our
he's leading the
public league. Yeah. Well done.
Well done.
Yes, mate. Congrats again. You're smashing it this season so far. Well done, mate. Big respect to you. Having a great season. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've got one more thing to do. That's Captain's Corner. You ready?
Take it away.
Okay. So, back for another edition. 5 options. Unfortunately, no curveball, but for each option, got 3 different dot points. So here we go. We start with Mo Salah. away at Southampton on the back of his 7th double-figure haul, which came at home to Aston Villa, 14 points. A mere 2 blanks this campaign, 8 goals, 6 assists. Southampton are ranked among the bottom 3 sides for allowing both shots in the box and big chances created. Bruno Fernandes away to the Tractor Boys at Portman Road. Ipswich have conceded the most chances of any side in the league with 47. The Portuguese has banked back-to-back double-digit hauls, including, as already mentioned and highlighted, 17 points at home to Leicester City. He is the second most transferred in play this game week, with 360,000 new owners. Bukayo Saka at home to Nottingham Forest. He's ranked top for big chances created with 9 and big chance involvements this campaign with 14. He managed to score in both meetings against Nuno's men last season, both ending as 2-1 wins to the Gunners. In addition, the Arsenal talisman has produced 45 of his 67 points from the Emirates. Yes, that guy going away to the King Power Stadium. Leicester have conceded a whopping 144 shots inside the box. His next 6 matches scores total of 15 in the fixture difficulty ranking, with 4 of those fixtures just scoring a 2, including Saturday's outing. In addition, he's produced the most key passes of any player with 24. Erling Haaland, let's not forget about this guy. Red's been banging his drum, and rightly so. When you're at home to this guy who kind of forgets how to defend half the time, there's reason in it. He's managed to clock his 12th goal for the season away at Brighton in what ended being a 2-1 defeat. Getting the twos mixed up, 4 more than any other player. In addition, Norwegian has had the most big chances of any player in the league from their home games. 2 goals scored in the previous encounter away at Tottenham and returned in both home outings against Spurs last season. Plenty to consider. It does keep the Norwegian still in contention for this week, despite not being mentioned in the 1-minute video through this working week. But Rev, bit to unpack there, especially from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah, there is. I think in terms of the stats that you had there, very impressive, mate. You know, love the effort that you bring into the captain's corner, especially. I didn't realise that Saka had been such a bit of a home form merchant so far. So that is definitely something to consider. His returns have been really, really steady so far. But I think if you've got him, I think one of the best captains this week has to be Mo Salah. And then other than that, I wouldn't rule out Erling Haaland. I still don't know who I'm going to captain, to be honest. You know, I think I'm going to put it on Haaland. I think this drought can't happen forever, and you know it's still Man City. Like we can't forget, it's still Man City and it's still Erling Haaland, and they are still against Spurs. It's going to be a tough game, but I've got no doubt that Man City are much better than they have been over the past few weeks.
Love it. Awesome takes as per usual from you, Reverend, the man, the myth, the legend on this pod. I reckon that wraps it up. Yep.
Yes, sir. No, thanks for today's pod, Chaza. I really enjoyed talking to you. Love your takes.
Different time slot, but hey, we got people that still watch, which was quite pleasing.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, been great to hang out with people in the chat. You know, Jojo, your FPL station as well, just in the chat there as well, talking about Isaac as a possible captain shout. That's a great shout, to be honest. Dalipool, Miriam, always a pleasure as well. You know, just great hanging out with people in the chat as well. So yeah, really enjoyed our pod today.
Awesome. Back for game week 13 come next week before a stacked December. But until then, Rev, have a great weekend, my friend.
You too, mate.
Beautiful.
See you later, everyone. Nice one.